Hey there, this is David DeWeaver. I want to talk about tipping in restaurants. Most of us know that in DC, waiters rely on tips to make a living, and we all know that sometimes people don't tip as they should. So why did tipped restaurant workers, who are currently paid under $4 an hour by their employer, say they didn't want a raise? If you're a DC local, chances are you've heard of Initiative 77. You'll also know that the initiative was repealed by the City Council after consultation with restaurant workers themselves. Are waiters actually doing well with tips? And how could being paid a higher minimum wage possibly jeopardize that? I wanted to go to the source and ask locals with first-hand knowledge. The first person I spoke to, let's call him Alex, works in a fairly large, consistently busy restaurant in Northwest DC. The second individual, Michael, works at a smaller, more informal establishment, which definitely affects his tips somewhat.
I'll tell you this, I've never sat down and broke it down by the hour, but I know that on average it is more than 30. If at the very least it is 30 an hour. You'll have nights that aren't this great, they're slow, and you'll take home about $200. And I'm fortunate enough to say that that's slow for me. That's just one shift. So mind you, you've worked eight hours, maybe 10.
Case, I think the most I made in a shift, it was a double shift, so approximately 10 to 12 hours. It's called 10 hours. I made $260. So I guess, yeah, on my best day, I made $30 an hour on average. Since September, if I had to give a average of what I'm making per hour, I'd say probably $14.50 maybe. So better than minimum wage, but nothing crazy.
So okay, maybe being a server could pay well. Maybe all those tips add up. But why would receiving a higher wage from their employer mean less pay for an employee? For that information, I spoke to Laura Hayes, a food editor at the Washington City paper.
Talk to the people who this would directly impact, the tip workers themselves. I interviewed about 160 of them. This has been my life since April. And it is very challenging to find tipped restaurant workers who were in favor of Initiative 77. They worried that some of the most vulnerable people that this initiative is supposed to help will actually be hurt because the support staff, would be the first to go, the bussers and the bar backs and people like that, because restaurant owners would be less likely to be willing to pay them $15 an hour than their servers, who would then have to kind of take on those duties. The chains are the best protected, right? Because they can kind of move money around. So like Yard House or whatever, that's in Chinatown.
Right.
It's a huge restaurant. They have a huge staff, but they can pull from a pot of their whole company. So the thing that worried me is that the restaurants that do close will be the ones that are just a husband and wife who sunk all of their money into this passion project.
If the restaurant starts budgeting for fewer hours, the individual employee might make less money per pay period if they aren't given as many shifts to work. We've already seen a similar phenomena out in San Francisco, where rising wages for tipped workers have forced some full-service restaurants to adopt a counter-serve model instead. To address higher payroll costs, restaurant owners have said they would need to do one of two things: increase the costs of menu items, or tack on a mandatory service charge to guest checks. Both of these tactics could make eating out appear more expensive to the guest, which would mean that Washingtonians eat out less, which could also mean less income for servers. So there you are, the Cliff Notes version of DC restaurant economics. Why should you care about this? Well, you should take this as a lesson. Before you vote to give your favorite server a raise, ask him what he wants. The answer might surprise you. That's all for today. Stay safe and happy holidays.